at home live. We are super excited to be here on another Monday. Hopefully, wherever you are in Tennessee, the ice is cleared up, or wherever you are in America, the snow and ice is cleared up because it was wild over the weekend, but nothing that we couldn't handle. Before we get to our awesome guest, I want to remind everybody join NAMI Tennessee's email list. It is super awesome, and it tells you about awesome events like the NAMI Walk, the Gala, legislative advocacy opportunities, curated content, and of course, the NAMI at Home series. And listen, it's free. You've got nothing to lose. It's like one email a week, and you are in the loop forever. All right, that's enough of me. Let's get to our super awesome guest. Tom, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks very, very much for having us.
You are very, very welcome. Please introduce yourselves. Tell the viewers who you are.
Sure. So my name is Thomas Dunning. I'm also known as the Mental Health Runner, and I basically spend most of my time outside of work, out of my full-time job as a mechanical engineer, to basically trying to help other people's mental health. Now, whether that is writing a book, whether that is doing a blog, going running, being active on my social media. I just like to share all my stories through psychosis, through my diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, social anxiety disorder, and PTSD, and just try and normalize the conversation so other people can just say, you know what, I'm not feeling too great. Let's have a chat. And it's, for me, it's no different to if you would break your arm. You'd go to the emergency room and you'd say, I've broke my arm. Whereas, what's the difference with mental health? It's still health at the end of the day. So that's kind of what I want to do, and what I pretty much do in the UK, and want to spread the message of all the teachings and learnings across the world, really.
So we were able to snag a guest from the United Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, isn't this just incredible? So I only have one question that's not mental health related, and I promise I will keep the rest mental health related. Okay.
Sure.
It's 2 p.m. Central Time here in Tennessee, or 3 p.m. Eastern, depending on what part of the state you are in. What time is it there?
It's currently 8 p.m. in the evening.
8 p.m.
8 p.m.
All right. Well, I hope we're not keeping you up past your bedtime,
No,
Tom.
definitely not.
Oh, Tom, once again, thank you for doing it. Let's hit the ground running and jump in with the first question. So, how did you get involved in all of this? Specifically, I mean, I want to hear how you became a mental health speaker. That's very. But I'm also curious is about this mental health running part, because I mean, I don't run. I barely walk, Tom. So tell us how you got started and why mental health runner.
Sure. So yeah, I started running by pure fluke. I was signed off work. I was in the height of psychosis. I was not in a very good place, to be honest. And my wife just said, why don't you try and go for a run? You enjoyed it before this whole episode situation, so why don't you give it a go? So I literally put my trainers on, put my headphones in, and just ran down the street that I still live on. And I must have got down the street a couple of so unfit. I just wasn't. I wasn't in the best shape, and it didn't feel good at the time. But when I got home, I don't know, something happened, and it's made me feel good. And it was purely just because I went for a run. When I started to run, I then started to get a bit faster, a bit fitter, start to go a bit longer distances, go for a bit of adventure, a bit of an explore, and I got really interested in the whole aspect of just being out there in the world and being present. So within about 7.5 months, I'd lost about 110 pounds of weight, and I just felt incredible. Like my mental health was significantly improved. I had a better outlook on my life. And I actually look forward to waking up in the morning again. And that was the biggest thing as part of my recovery. And that's kind of where mental health running started, where I thought, you know what, this was just such a simple thing to do, where I put my trainers on, like I said, put my headphones in and just went for a run. And even to this day, if I'm having a bad day, I go for a run. If I'm having a good day, I go for a run. It's just something that I really do enjoy. It's about being present as well. I love running in the rain. I know a lot of people hate it, but it's just feeling everything, whether it be the wind, the rain, whatever weather. I absolutely adore it. We got a bit of snow last year, and I went running in the snow because I'd never ran in the snow before, so I thought I'd give it a go. And it just became a really healthy obsession. And then at that point, I kind of thought, well, where do I want to go with this? It was such a simple thing to do, so I started to blog, just mentioning about all the stories, in quite heavy detail, because I want to normalize the conversation with everything. So I was at work one day, and I just thought I'd Google TED, the TED speaking platform. It turns out that there was one quite local to me, so I thought, okay, well, what's the worst that'll happen? Let's just see what they'll say. About 2 weeks later, I got an email back saying, yeah, we would love you to speak. We'd love you to speak. And it kind of hit me like, oh, this is a thing. I've got to go do this now. And I loved it. It was just sharing my story on a global platform to help others. And it was like a type of therapy. It was really therapeutic to talk about my story because it normalized it for me. And then people afterwards started coming up to me, shaking my hand, saying, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think I had to get some help and things like that. And it made me think, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is what mental health runner should be, is just talk about mental health as if, right, I'm going to go down to a shop. What do you want? And, just having an open discussion like we're having now. And that's kind of how it all started, to be honest, about 2017. And since then, it's just been a case of, I've been very fortunate to speak around the world in person as well. I've been very fortunate to win a couple of awards. It's just been incredible. It's just been incredible. And to be honest, I'm just talking about myself. There's no magic to it. It's just basically talking about myself and just things that might help others. I've got this this very powerful thing that I like to say is that everyone has a superpower, whether it be teaching maths, English, science, or whatever. Everyone has the power to change someone's life, no matter how big or small. So what's the difference with talking about mental health? It's that superpower that everyone has. Now, however you use it, it's up to you. That's whether you use it for good or evil, it's up to you. But I know that I would like to use mine for good. So that's basically it. That's how mental health runner started, and kind of how the speaking platform took off, really.
So it's amazing the things that you get stuck in your mind, right? So you and I we just met, right? I've seen your website, I've seen your picture, I've read your bio, but we're not friends. I don't know your whole life. I don't hang out in the UK. You're not hanging out here in America. So when we first meet, I see this fit guy. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course he runs. He's young, he's fit, he looks healthy. This is not an option for everybody. But then when you were talking, you said, I started off, it was really hard, it was really difficult, and I didn't get very far, but I kept at it, and then I lost 110 pounds, which of course meant that you were 110 pounds heavier when you were starting this. And I realized this of course is the problem with assumptions, right? I think, well, he's young and in good shape, of course he's running, but you were still young, but you weren't in the greatest of physical health, and you already said you weren't in the greatest of mental health, and you had a lot. It was an uphill run.
It felt like it.
What was that like? Because, and I want to admit my own assumption. I just assumed, he's young and healthy, of course he was running, but that's not your story. It's you sort of passed it over a little bit. You're like, it was hard at first. I imagine it wasn't just hard at first. It was very difficult for a while.
Oh yeah. It was about a year really before I actually started to get any sort of therapy, and that's just the way that it is in the UK. There's just a huge waiting list regarding mental health therapies, cognitive behavioral therapies, and things like that. So it took a while, really, to the start of it. I put it down to my childhood. So I've going through school, all the way through school from the age of 4 to about the age of 17. I was bullied quite heavily. I was beaten up. I had shoes stolen off me. I had my pencil case stolen every day. And I had my brother. I've got 2 brothers, but one brother in particular would be the guy to look after all of us. He was that really chipper, defensive brother. But unfortunately, he passed away. And the week he passed away, I got told from the company I still work for that they'd like me to be a mechanical engineering apprentice. So I did my apprenticeship. I did about 5 years of that, came out with a degree in mechanical engineering. And after I graduated, my head all of a sudden just went, this happened. And I just got launched into something that I didn't understand. We didn't talk about it in the house. It wasn't because we had that stigma attached to it. It's because it was one of those things we didn't talk about. My dad and my brothers were all in the RAF, so it's a heavy military background. And I always thought, well, my problems probably won't be as big as theirs because they've been to theatres of war and and things like that. So my brain basically turned on me quite heavily to where I'd enter psychosis. So I'd hear things like, we're talking now, but it would be degrading things. So things like, you're fat, you're ugly, your partner's better without you, you shouldn't be here, and all that. And because I didn't tell anyone, it got significantly worse. So I then started to act on these things. They'd take control. So this room that I'm sat in, my living room at the moment, has just been redecorated from about 2014. That's how much I smashed the house up. It'd be throw this, kick that, smash windows, take doors off the wall. It was horrific. And because I didn't tell anyone again, it got worse where I would then start to see things. Now, the two things I'd only ever see would be that of blood all over my hands, like proper congealed blood. And then second of all, I would see my brother who passed away. But as I was trying to escape the room that he was in, he'd follow me. So I was in full blown psychosis. I would end up in hospital. There's quite a few times I ended up in A&E, in our emergency department, twice in one night, and that was very, very frequent. Of where unfortunately I'd try and attempt to take my life. And that's kind of really how bad it got. It was that significantly bad. Like you said, it did get bad, but it got that bad. It was horrific. And then thankfully, I found running. My partner suggested I go to a session that she went to. So basically, carers in the UK can go to groups, like a respite group, where they can go bowling, they can go for a coffee, they could do whatever they wanted. And they got the people they're caring for together. And I met this gentleman called Dave, and he went on to help build the Burj Khalifa, the biggest building in the world. And he that's the firm he worked for, and he had the exact same diagnosis that I had. And that made me think, well, you know what, if he's done that and he's got the same diagnosis I have, what's stopping me? What's stopping me from doing things and recovering? And that was kind of that is still the driving force of Mental Health Runner, where I've done some amazing things, and what else can I do to make that better, or what can I do to increase it, and things like that. And so that's kind of really how bad things got, to be honest. It's kind of like in a backwards and weird kind of way, I'm using that as a fuel, if that makes sense. As a I have been that bad, I'm here now, and that's kind of like how I like to see it, is my superpower. Like going back to that analogy, that showing people that I've been to the bottom, the lowest that I'll probably hopefully ever be, and I'm here now. That I'll do everything I can to help and share my story, and just help navigate that the abyss that is mental illness, really.
Yeah. So the next question, so we've established why you started running, how difficult it was at first. Thank you so much for your transparency and your vulnerability and your honesty. But let's talk nuts and bolts. What specifically was it about running which helped change your life?
It was the feeling afterwards, to be honest. It was the feeling of accomplishment. It was a feeling of going, okay, well, today I've ran down the street and I've got to 3 lampposts. Okay, well, let's park it there. Let's have a break. Let's come back to it tomorrow. Let's try for 4 lampposts. And then all of a sudden it became, let's get to the bottom of the street, and then let's get to the bottom of that street. And it was the feeling of accomplishment, the feeling that I wasn't in the best shape, but I'm progressing. I'm getting better. But also the feeling of being, like I said, being present. it's so grounding to feel, all the elements on you. Like I said, whether it be wind, rain, sun, snow, ice, whatever it may be. It's the feeling of being present and still being there, and the fact of, well, I've left the house. That's one win. When I was at my worst, I didn't dare leave the house because of my anxiety. And every day just became a matter of, well, I've done that. Brilliant. I've beaten myself yesterday. Let's try again tomorrow and beat myself the previous day. All the way up to basically I did London Marathon in 2019. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, even to this day, I see that as I won the London Marathon. I didn't, I'll be blunt, I didn't. It was probably one of the hardest 5 hours of my life. But it was the fact that when I got across that finish line, I'd beaten myself. I'd beaten my own demons that tried to stop me being on this planet. And it was the accomplishment of, well, yeah, coming first and being the only person that in a mental health battle, it is only your own demons and yourself. And that's kind of how I saw it, was just beating myself, getting better, and defeating my worst enemy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it sounds like you very much said. I'm trying to think of the right way to word this. You weren't trying to beat anybody but yourself from yesterday. I
That's it.
know there's like a social media quote in there somewhere, but you, like you said, you felt like you won the London Marathon, but in reality you didn't. But you did it. You
Yes.
completed the London Marathon, and since that was your goal, winning occurred. Yesterday you made it to the third lamppost. Today you made it to the fourth, winning. So you just kind of took it in bite-sized chunks and got all the way up. Is that your message to other people? Because I'm looking at you and I'm still thinking, I can't run any marathon. Like, I get winded watching a television marathon, and that's a lot of shows right in a row.
Yeah.
So sincerely, I think there's a lot of people watching that are just like, I don't know, I can't run a marathon. Running outside is hard. I don't want to start. And I know I keep kind of drawing you back to those moments, but getting started has to be difficult. It
It
can't
is.
just be go do it. That's everybody would do it if it were that easy.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, exactly. And maybe going running, it might be something you might not enjoy. So another part of mental health runner is just getting active, whether that is going out for a walk, going out for a jog, going out for a cycle, doing whatever you kind of fancy doing. I mean, I really do stress that the biggest, smallest step that I've ever taken is, well, the two biggest, smallest steps I've ever taken is the first one, asking for help, and also taking that first step out of my front door, because I completely appreciate when people are in that abyss of anxiety, like I was, you don't want to leave the house. And sometimes even just admitting that there may be something wrong could be the biggest bit to make you feel proud to go, okay, well, let's try something. You don't have to go out for a run. You could go out for a walk. You could, like I said, go for a cycle. You do whatever it means, even if it's walking up and down the stairs a couple of times, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that getting started with anything, it is always going to be hard, and especially getting support. That I still attribute this day to saying the biggest small step I ever made was saying I need to get some help, because that takes incredible strength just to admit to yourself. I'm not trying to say, look at me, I'm I'm so strong, but I mean that to anyone. Like, if it's the first time you think that maybe something wrong, is the biggest step you'll make, because you've kind of already admitted to yourself that there is something wrong and you can get help. And it's then actioning that, how you can go about it. And if you don't want to action straight away, it doesn't mean you're not strong. It just means that you're getting stronger, because you've seen there is something wrong, but maybe you're not quite ready yet to see some support. And you might need some support yourself to seeking that support, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's kind of like the best way I can describe it.
I really like what you said there. And I know you're like, I'm not saying I'm strong. I'm not bragging, I swear, but you're right. Nobody gives themselves credit for that first step.
Yeah.
We're all really super impressed with finishing the marathon, which is 26.2 miles, right? But the I read something somewhere that said that the two most important steps are the first one and the last one.
Yeah.
And I it's kind of hokey. I mean, I think all the steps are probably important.
Yeah,
But if we remove if we dust off and take it for as it is, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, right? But people living with mental illness, they often don't give themselves credit for just the incredible amount of strength that it
yeah,
takes to say, I can't do it. I can't do it. And there's so many people right now who are afraid to ask for help. And my message, and it sounds like your message is the same, is gather all the strength that you have, give everything you have, and ask for that help, because it's an incredibly difficult thing to do, and you'll be really proud of yourself once you do it. And I think more people need to be praised for that and give themselves credit for that. And it
yeah,
just sadly
definitely.
doesn't happen enough.
Yeah,
The
completely agree. It's just having that strength to say something ain't right. It is just that's there's so much strength in it, and like you said, I think we're our own demons where we don't give ourselves that credit.
we don't. The next question I have for you, Tom. So we've you're now here, right? We know that you're here. We know the end result, but where was the moment? What was the moment that you thought, I can get better, and you believed it? It wasn't, you weren't doing it for your partner anymore. You weren't doing it because you were hopeful, or you were just, now it became fact. It went from hope to fact. When was that moment where you thought, I can get better, and you believed it?
Yeah, I do remember that day quite significantly actually. So all the way even running, there was so many times where I thought, I can't do this, and there's been times where I've had to literally look myself in the mirror and go, right, you can do this. You can do it. The human body is incredibly adaptable, for example, so you can do it. And there was the one point where I thought, you know what, I know I can do this. I was running around the top of Lincoln, obviously Lincolnshire in the UK. And if you were to Google image search Lincoln, Lincolnshire, you'll see a massive cathedral, and you can see that literally anywhere you are in the UK, not that big. It's anywhere you can in Lincoln. So I was doing a couple of laps around it 'cause it's quite beautiful. It's a very very old, not a very old cathedral, and they've got like a massive green field in the front of it. So I did a couple of laps, got a bit tired, and sat down. And I remember looking up at the cathedral and thinking, this took hundreds and hundreds of years to build, and people that's someone's mark. That is someone's mark left on in our society, in our culture, even on the earth. It's still there, and it made me think. Well, you know what looking back, how would I want to be seen? And it was the point where I thought, you know what, if as long as you can look back and kind of say, I tried, or at least I tried, or I did that, then for me that's all that really matters. And again, that's just for me, because someone was building a cathedral, amazing feat of engineering and skill. I was sat on the lawn in front of it and thinking, well, again, how do I want to be remembered? How do I want to look back on my life and say, you know, if I at least I did that, or at least I tried, or I did that. And that's kind of where I first thought, you know what, well, with that, I know I can get better, because I want to look back on my life and go, I got better, which is what mental health is kind of all about. But also say that either, at least I tried, or I did that. And that was kind of the first point. That was it. That was the point where I went, right, I know I can do this. And then built myself up, and I wanted to show the world, I am Thomas Dunning. I'm a runner. I'm a public speaker. I'm an author. X, Y, Z. That's kind of the first time where I really believed it.
I think it's incredible to have that moment, right? Because that moment provides a couple of things. It's great to have that feeling. Let's not discount the feeling that comes along with, like you said, knowing it. It's now a
Sure.
fact. It's transitioned, right? But you also have the story, because self-doubt is part of life. It's also part of mental illness and mental health
Yeah.
challenges, but it's just part of life. People doubt all kinds of things. I talk to people from all walks of life who have no mental illness. Like, I doubted that I'd be a good spouse, I'd be a good parent, I'd be a good whatever job they just start. Everybody doubts themselves on their first day.
Yeah,
what I like about that,
definitely.
you've got this story, right? So is that a mantra for you when the doubt starts to creep in, when the hope levels drop? Do you remind yourself of this story and become energized by it?
Yeah, really do. I honestly, I really do. Yeah, there's been times where even just entering races where I've gone, I don't know if I can do that. I mean, I was supposed to do an ultra last year, and unfortunately, we had to back out halfway through because my one of my best mates got an injury. Um, but there was times where I thought I can't do this, and that was the point where I can either give up and then beat myself up for the rest of my days, thinking I could have probably tried a bit harder or could have kept going, or at least I tried and I carried on and got to the bit where I thought I just can't do it anymore. So yeah, even through work, through my professional career, I still use that to help me get motivated and try and improve myself and develop things and fix things and things like that, and go out of my comfort zone slightly. um, and yes, that's definitely the a really big story for me to as for power.
I know that you cannot see all of our viewers or sit down and talk to them, but if you could, is this something that you would recommend that somebody try to figure out that moment or find that moment, tell themselves that story, get a mantra? I know you've described it as helpful for you. Do you feel that it's helpful for others? What's your general opinion on mantras and recovery?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree. I've actually got two mantras in life, really. That I'll use the American number. So in the USA, there's 1 in 5 people suffer with a mental health condition at some point in their life. Um, that also means there's 4 other people who can help save a life potentially. In the UK, that number is 1 in 4. And again, if 1 in 4 people suffer with a mental health condition, 3 other people can help save that one person's life. And the kind of second mantra, which I again live my life by, I stole this from a student in Lewisham, just outside London. So please deal with this as well as I've stolen quite graciously. Is that I was giving a talk and I said, you know what, if no matter what time scale you go through, whether it be a second, minute, hour, day, whatever time scale with a mental health condition, you're no longer a sufferer, but you're a survivor. And this student stood up to me and went, I don't like that. I thought, oh no, I'm so sorry. I did not mean to offend you. What would you say? And he said, I'm not a survivor, I'm a thriver. I thought, I do not disagree with that one bit. So I kind of invented a word called being a SurThriver. You've survived that 1 second and now you thrive. And that's I still use that mantra to this day. In the past couple of um, weeks and months have been quite hard. I'll be honest, and I've been quite open on my social media, and I still use that to this day. Going, you know what? I've had that 1 second now where I've had that weakness or that point where I've had to go, something's not quite right, and now I'm thriving because I've gone through that 1 second, so I know I can do it again. Same with, like I said, with the analogy of the lamppost. To what 2 lampposts to begin with, then 3, then 4, then the street, then a bit further, then a bit further. And that's kind of like what I live my life by, really.
Now, I know that you already answered, you told the story of where this phrase came from, and you kind of answered it. I just want to, it's a new word. I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to understand it. You mentioned the word Sur-Thriver. We know the
Yes.
story of where it came from and how it put back together. But if it had a Webster's dictionary definition, what would it be? And then just really go on to explain the word, because I love it when people make up new words, right? Because I love that the English language is constantly evolving. So we got to get
Yeah.
SurThriver out there. So tell us all about it.
Yeah. That'd be amazing to be in a dictionary. Yeah. So SurThriver, like I mentioned that story, is a mixture of SurThriver, so survivor, and thriver. Now, obviously, survivor is to basically still be around after a significant event. Like I said, I've survived my mental illness. I'm still surviving in many respects. I've survived countless episodes where I probably shouldn't be here anymore. Whereas the thriver part of it is going, okay, well, this has happened. This has happened in my life, but I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to use this as my drive, as my things will get better, and again, how Mental Health Runner came about. So Sur-Thriver is basically you've survived that time scale, no matter how long you want to see it. If it's you've gone, that was a really hard week, that's fine. You've survived that week and now you're thriving with it because you've already got through it. You know how to get through it. Maybe you have to go through it a couple of times, a couple more weeks, but it will get better because you're learning how to deal with it. If you look at it with a bad year, you've had a bad year, you've gotten through it, and now you're thriving with it because you've learned so many things over that time period on how to do it. Like I said, even to 1 second, you might have had 1 second where you had an intrusive thought, and in the next second you've kind of gone, oh, hang on a minute, that's not quite right. I've recognized that's not a very rational thought or a good thought to have. You've straight away, after that 1 second, you thrived because you've learned how to get through it. You've learned how to use that point and help you recognize in the future that was an intrusive thought. Do you see what I'm saying?
I do very much.
And
so
that's kind of how I would describe it.
That's very, very cool. Let's talk about your wisdom for a moment. So Tom, I know you talk to a lot of people, and many of those people, they're at the beginning. They're very much at the beginning.
Sure.
The majority of people that I seem to talk to are either thinking about getting started, or have just gotten started, or they've been at it for a while and maybe they just had a setback. What would you say to people who are just beginning their own journey to address mental health struggles? I'm going to assume that they acknowledge that they have the mental health struggles. They're just right at the beginning.
Yeah. So the best advice, and if I could go back to Tom when he was either 10 years old or 16 or however old before he encountered these mental illnesses, I would just say that, it's obviously it will get better over time, and that is it. It's going to be a hard journey. However, at the point where you'll recognize that there is something wrong, the best way I can describe it is you're never going to be worse off if you ask the question, because if you speak to someone, whether it be a family member or a friend, work colleague, whoever, and you tell them that there's something going wrong and they don't know how to support you, and they say, look, I'm sorry, I don't know how, you've not really lost out, because you've already opened up, you've acknowledged there was something wrong, and you've already talked about it. And again, going back to how we said, we don't give ourselves enough credit for that step just to speak to someone. And then going forward, speaking to a professional, speaking to a psychiatrist, to a mental health professional, you're never going to lose out. Like I said, the worst case scenario is they'll probably say no. Well, they might say no. Hopefully they won't, but they might say no, and you'll be no worse off. You'll be in the same place where you are, but you've already got a bit better because you've had the conversation. Again, another step, another lamppost, for example, and then keep going and keep going and keep going. And just take real big strength in the fact that, it is hard. And I won't sugarcoat it. I'm sure everyone will agree it is hard, but there is a way of getting around it. And again, use lamppost analogy, for example. You ask the one question, that's your first lamppost. Maybe they can't help you. Okay, well, I'll speak to this professional, is charity. Okay, they can help you. Okay, that's two lampposts. So you see what I'm going. You're getting yourself better and better already without even having the correct therapy, as it were. So that's the best advice I would give, really, is basically don't give up, but don't be scared of hearing that people can't help you, because you've already helped yourself.
Thank you, Tom, so much. So we've learned a lot, but you are in the UK.
Yes.
So this is so I want to know what the future for Mental Health Runner is. I want to know what your future holds, but I think I'd be remiss if I didn't say, okay, so short of everybody traveling over to the UK or you immigrating to America, how can people in Tennessee and the States get involved across the pond? But the first question I want you to focus on is what is the future? What is next for the Mental Health Runner?
So the next for Mental Health Runner is, obviously, I'm going to keep running. I'm going to keep pushing myself and just showing the world that, if you have a mental health diagnosis, it's never going to be your limitation. And that is going to be the main goal of Mental Health Runner up until the time where I can't do it anymore physically, or because, my time has come, for example. So, that is always going to be the goal, where I'll show the world, no matter whatever mental illness you have, it can get better, and I will just keep doing that until it is ingrained into every person that I know. Yeah, that's kind of the future mental health runner, and I'd love to speak more. Obviously, within the UK, I do a lot of talking around the UK, but work abroad, because I feel that we can all share, and that's kind of going onto the next question: is how could people in Tennessee and the States get involved across the pond? Is just talking and just sharing stories. I've made a lot of friends on Instagram who are in the US, and we talk about things and how things can improve, and what we do in the UK that are good and bad, and what the USA do good and bad. And I think we're very good at teaching people, but we're very bad at learning from other people, if that makes sense. So we're very bad at seeing what works elsewhere and how it applies to us. I totally agree. We are the opposite side of the planet, and things are different. The countries are run completely different. I totally agree with that. But it's everyone can get involved, because we're all human, and we've all got a brain. We're all, like I said, we're all human. I can't say every journey of mental illness is going to be exactly the same, because it's just simply not. But talking about our mental health, even just us talking right now, someone might be watching this and thinking, well, maybe I need to get some support, or being involved with Mental Health Runner. All you've got to do is go out for a run and just show people that you have this situation, whether it be you're diagnosed or undiagnosed, and you've gone out for a run, or you've done this amazing thing. You've done something which you've pushed your boundary, as it were. Like you've taken a step outside, you've gone out to the mailbox, you've done certain things, and that's how you can really get involved with that. And again, just learning. We as humanity, we're continuously learning. We have a thirst for education, we have a thirst to learn certain things, and we can learn so many things from each other if we just talk. And that's kind of what I want the people in Tennessee, the people of America, to get involved with, is just talk to people like myself, talk to people in the UK, and us, again, people in the UK talking to people in the USA, because you may do things differently, but they might be the right way of doing it, and we don't know this. So that's the best way where anyone can get involved, whether it be, again, across the pond, whether it be in our own closed societies, however that may be. We can all learn from each other, and that's kind of the reason why I really love getting involved with NAMI as well.
Tom, thank you so much for being here. Before we scoot on out of here, do you have any last words, any last hints, and like what shoes do you wear? I know that's not a mental health question, but I'm curious as to, are the $200 runner shoes worth it? But in addition to that question, I know I promised only one non-mental health question, and now I've landed on a second one. But if your feet hurt, you're probably not going to be in your best mood. So that's in the gray area. But in addition to what type of shoes do you wear, do you have any last words for our audience?
Yeah, I started out running on a pair of £6 trainers, which I think is probably about $5 over there. It might be a bit. I can't remember the exchange rate. By the way, it was a very, very cheap pair from a second-hand store, and it was just to get me out. And I won't sugarcoat it. I really do enjoy my trainers now, and for me, they are an investment, because I don't see it any different that people might like to play video games. I'd like to run. So rather than paying that $65 video game, I pay a little bit more towards a pair of trainers, and I get more out of it. That's kind of how I see. So yeah, I've got a fantastic couple of pairs of Brooks to keep me running, keep me going. Comfortable shoes.
That's awesome. Tom, once again, thank you so much for being here. We can't appreciate
Thank
you
you so
enough.
much.
And listen, you know what I'm going to say? You've been here week after week after week. Sign up for the email list. Tom, I think that people think I get like a toaster. or like a microwave or an air fryer, right? It's an air fryer. Right? What do you get for opening a bank now, a bank account now? Oh, it's an iPod. I get an iPod the more people who sign up. But sincerely, it is the #1 way to keep in touch with what's going on at NAMI Tennessee. And lots of stuff is going on at NAMI Tennessee. And of course, everything that we do is free. So it pays to sign up, because then you will completely be in the loop. Tom, once again,
Definitely.
thank you so much. And bye,
It's a
everyone.
pleasure.